Okay, just going to drink a bit of water. Okay. All right, so here we were. So we've explained this whole demand function, and that's the most important part of the whole thing. Now, how the market equilibrium is determined? Well, what we want to know is, so the crucial thing now to determine is how many firms on the market. So in the first part of the class, we have said that we have a Cournot monopoly, oligopoly with a fixed number of firms. So 4, 5, 2, we decide. Now, this is going to be determined endogenously by the model. And there are going to be two aspects to consider. So first, firms need to make money or to not go bankrupt. So that means that they have to sell at a price that allow them to just make enough profit to pay for their fixed cost. So what happens if you have too many firms? Then if you have too many firms, they cannot sell too much because they have many competitors, but they all have to pay to create their brand. So it can be like a new shampoo brand, so it takes time to invent it. So you cannot have many competing, or imagine, I don't know, the market for vaccines against COVID. So you can have a few vaccines, but you wouldn't have 100 different vaccines in the world because each vaccine costs so much to invent that at some point it's too much. Yeah, so that's because of the structure, the price, the cost of each firm. And now on the price, on the demand side, well, if you have many firms, then as we have seen, so consumers can decide, oh, well, this product is almost the same as this other product, so I'm not going to pay all that much extra to buy it. So firms are sort of squeezed. They want to enter the market and create new brands as much as possible, but they are constrained by the fact that there is a lot of competition on the market, and they have to pay for inventing their new brand. And these two things are going to be what determines the equilibrium price. Yeah, so the method for determining the number of firms and the average price involves 3 steps. One, we determine relationship between the number of firms and the average cost of a typical firm. So more firms mean that each firm's typical cost is, well, the average cost is higher because they divide over a smaller number of units sold. We determine a relationship between the number of firms and the price each firm charges. So this is a, yes, this I would say is a, whoa. Oh, that's right. I don't have all my shortcuts set on this computer. Yeah, I think I did though. Okay, yes. This is it, right? Okay, yeah. More firms. Yeah, sorry, the font isn't all that great, but still is the same. Means higher average cost. Firm. And here is more firms. Or price. Steeper competition. And then we derive the equilibrium number of firms and the average price that firms charge. Number of firms and average cost. So how do the average costs depend on the number of firms? So we go back to the equation that we just discussed there. We assume that P equals to P bar. So then Q equals S divided by N simply. So under symmetry, P equals P bar, equation 6.5. So that tells us that Q equals S divided by N. But then equation 6.4 shows that the average cost depends inversely on a firm's output. Well, because average cost equals to F divided by Q plus C. So this was the cost equation that we introduced earlier. So what you can do now is just substitute Q from this equation there, and you get that average cost is equal to N times F divided by S plus C. So it means that the more firms there are in this industry, then the higher is the average cost. So why again? Well, because the more firm there are, so the smaller each can produce, so their average cost is higher. So, yeah. And does that make sense? So that's that's how the model works. So the more firms, then the smaller their market share is. So the higher their average cost is. So incidentally, this is the same as we've seen before with the Cournot model. So each firm can, so if you have 5 firms on the market, then the total production of the market is larger, but each single firm sells a smaller portion of the market, right? So that's the first aspect. Yeah, so this is the CC curve. So here is, yeah, so here is now this is not supply and demand. This is a relation between cost and price. So on the average cost, essentially, and price on the vertical axis, and number of firms. So we are going to determine the number of firms on the market with two relation between number of firms and cost and price. First is the positive relation there. So more firms each sell less. So yeah, so they're higher average. So that's the first relation. And the second, as we've seen, as I said, is a function of the fact that more firms equal more competition, so lower price on average. So that's what we're going to see next. So number of firm, so the price of a typical firm that it charges depends on the number of firms in the industry. The more firms, the more competition, hence the lower the price. So in the monopolistic competition model, firms are assumed to take each other's price as given, and each other's quantity produced, essentially, also. Yeah, so again, we, okay, so here, this, I think they do it quite quickly. So what they want is to go from, again, this equation there to a relation between the number of firms and the price they sell. But they do it very quickly. So I wanted to do it step by step. So let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is the model that they show. This is the first equation right there. Q equals S multiplied by 1 over N minus B, P minus P bar. And Q is the firm cell, S is the total sale in the industry, N is the number of firm in the industry. So are you copying all of these, or can I move forward? Or you're not copying the... Okay. I just want to know if I can go to the next page. Yes. B is the constant term. P is the representing the responsiveness of a firm's sell to its price. P is the price charged by the firm, and P bar is the average. So this is all just the model setup. Yeah, so here it is. So this is the first relation that we've seen, 6/6. So I just repeated it here. And then the second relation. So I think I'm just going to go step by step to make sure that you see what we're doing there. So we have this relation. Q equals to again, I have to share my screen there. Okay, Q equals to 1 over N minus P times P bar. And then, so this is the demand curve. So what we want is, again, the inverse demand curve. So what we want is to isolate P here, express P as function of Q. Plus B. Then I can have let's have this. So this is P of Q. And now the revenue is always the same. R P of Q times Q. So P of Q. So equals this. Times Q. Over B. And so then marginal revenue. So the firm maximizes profit like usual. revenue cost, and I'm going to get the same as usual. So marginal revenue marginal cost. So the marginal revenue is simply dr dr of q dq, and it is equal to, so 1 over b is doesn't it's just doesn't appear, so it's just equal to 1 over bn plus p bar, and the marginal cost, if you remember, it's just C, a small c cost, because the cost function was c equals f plus cq. So what do I get? I get this. So result c, but remember, all firms are the same. So p bar equals p. This. All right, so did I make a mistake somewhere? Check. P equals C plus Q over SP. No. All right, okay. Yeah, okay, no, it's going to be too complicated. So rather than trying to fix this, I'm just going to stick with the notes I have there. Yeah, so this was fine. Yeah, marginal revenue equals P minus Q over S. Okay, I'm going to post these, but it's getting quite involved in competition. But I'm going to post these and after the class. But I think it's yeah, I better move on. So you have essentially 3 conditions. So one is that price equals marginal cost. Second is that the average, and then the second is average cost equals price. That's the long-term equilibrium. You get zero profits, and this is the expression you get for the number of firms on the market. Yeah, it works better when I have two computers, so I can always know what's coming. So let me go back to the slides. Okay. So you rewrite the demand this way, but then again, what you have to do is invert the demand. So take P out of the expression, and then you equal the marginal revenue equals marginal cost, and then you essentially get this expression at the end. Isn't it the same as what I found there? Times n. I must have done a computation mistake somewhere, but it's close to what I have. P equals. Oh yeah, it's the same. I didn't make any mistake. All right, okay. Equals C minus C plus. Yeah, there's just a sign mistake. Yeah, for some reason, there's a sign mistake somewhere. It should be a sign mistake. But it's essentially the same. Okay. So here there's this negative relation between the price and the number of firms because of increased competition. Sorry about that. I was planning to use two screens to make sure that everything is fine, but all right. So the number of firms is when, of course, the two relations cross. So we have this relation and this relation. So this is more firms. More competition. Because there are alternatives. For consumers. So competition is harsher, and the equilibrium so the average cost, I would say long-term equilibrium, must equal market price because if there, because firms break even, there is free entry and exit of firms. All right. Yeah, exactly. So why do you get that? Well, because if firms make too much of a profit, then other firms can enter the market and start selling new brands. So that's going to increase competition and lower the price and increase the number of firms. So it means that each consumers will pick between more different brands, and each brand is going to have fewer customers to buy them. So in the long run, it has to be the case that the sales price is equal to the marginal cost, to the average cost. So have higher average cost. And the more firm on the market. Okay. All right, so that's the equilibrium. Here they say some limitations to the monopolistic competition model. Some other thing that might be going on markets that we don't consider. So here I have shown this small poster there. So one is collusive behavior. It's when essentially firms decide that they don't want to compete against each other and they prefer to make collusion. Have you seen this movie there? It's one of the earlier Matt Damon movies. Well, Matt Damon, I hope you know who is. So that's a fun little movie, The Informant, where he's because colluding between firms is illegal because it's bad for competition. It's like acting as a monopoly. So what you do as firms is you say, oh, we're going to collectively decide to restrict our competition, our production. This is going to hike the price and we're going to make more profit, and then we can divide the profits among each other and so make a better profit. So here is essentially is what happens to collusive behavior or cartels is oftentimes one of the cartel member decides that they don't want to go to jail, so they rat on each other. They rat on the others and they say, yeah, I'm part of a cartel, but I'm helping the police, so please don't send me to jail. So that's what he's doing there. But so yeah. This is not monopolistic competition. Here, monopolistic competition assumes that all of the brands compete against each other. In real life, cartel exists. So one example in Quebec. There are many that have been found guilty. Or yeah, Canada, I would say. So the white bread cartel. That was between Loblaws. I don't know how to write Loblaws. I don't know. Anyway, so that's a cartel of grocery stores that were selling white bread. And they said, yeah, our white bread is mostly the same, so let's not compete against each other. Let's just put the price higher, sell less, but then divide the profits among ourselves. And yeah, they were cut eventually. So in Europe, there was in France, there was the dish soap cartel. So again, people who sell dish soap, it's essentially the same. So they just collude against with one another to hike the price, limit competition, and they were cut. So question, what is the best cartel? If I asked you this question before? No? What is the best cartel? there is an objective answer. It's not easy to think about it, but yeah, it's, in my opinion, it's OPEC. Why? So OPEC is organization of exporting countries. So why is it the best cartel? Well, I hate what they produce. Well, we need it for our cars, but it would be better if we had higher taxes on gasoline, because it's bad for the environment. Well, countries like the US or many other places, they don't really want high prices, high taxes on gasoline. But what does OPEC do? Well, they restrict production and hike prices. So that's the best thing that can happen for future generation, is as much as they keep prices high, then it's good for the environment. So of course, they don't do it because they like the environment. So they just do it because they want more money.